You ready?
Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show Crosstalk. Well, Peter, this week, President Zelensky will be arriving finally to Washington to meet President Biden.
Nobody's in Washington.
You know, there's a lot of excited anticipation on the part of think tank land and the usual NATO boosters. And hoping that this will help revive the U.S.-Ukraine alliance. It's very unclear at this stage what the U.S. position will be, because as we've discussed on many occasions, Biden managed to glide by during the election without really any challenging questions about any of the key foreign policy issues. You know, the media were happy just to have him say, "Oh, Trump is Putin's puppy," and everyone was happy, and that he was going to get tough with Putin and so on. And then he started off doing that, and then he suddenly veered away from that after the killer remark. And then following the apparent belligerence, he was going to send warships into the Black Sea. He backed away from that, brought to an end all of the sanctions against the German companies with Nord Stream 2, focused on arms control talks with Russia, cyber security threats for Russia. So he hasn't so far, since the big turning after the killer comments, he doesn't look like he's very interested in reviving any warm relations with Zelensky. But given that we're in a kind of a fluid situation, who knows what might happen? And what we already know is that the Ukraine lobby is hard at it. And one such figure is a person that we have discussed on many previous occasions, is Michael McFaul, former US ambassador to Russia and a professor of political science at Stanford University. And you aren't a professor of political science at Stanford University. I'm not a professor of political science at Stanford University, nor are any Gagglers professors of political science at Stanford University. So we should all be in awe of Michael McFaul until we actually start reading something that he says. And so he wrote a few days ago an article in the Washington Post titled, "The US and Ukraine need to reboot their relationship. Here's how they can do it." And he of course starts off by likening Ukraine to West Berlin and West Germany during the Cold War. They were in the front lines against Soviet aggression. And so he's saying that it's absolutely essential to support wholeheartedly Ukraine. And as he goes on, give them everything they want. He says Biden should celebrate Ukraine as a critical security partner in Europe and announce major new military assistance, enhancing what US officials quietly maintained during the Trump years. This package should focus on defensive weapons, including more anti-tank javelins, as well as upgraded radars to increase their effectiveness. And then the US should also involve itself in the moribund Normandy process involving Germany, France, Russia, and Ukraine. But self-defense for Ukraine must be right now. And then he says the Americans should stop whining about corruption in Ukraine, because it's just leading to to bad feelings. And in any case, Ukraine is doing a great deal. And he says, it's just passed the historical law on land reform. In other words, it's making Ukraine land available for foreign purchasers. And if you follow the links in the article, it's met with the approval of the International Monetary Fund. So must be a good land reform plan. And then he talks about a major judicial reform package has just been passed. And this too has met with endorsement from the Venice Commission of the Council of Europe. And again, if you look at the link, what it means is that foreigners will get to decide who gets to be appointed judge. Literally, foreigners will be given the power to appoint judges in Ukraine. But most egregious is what McFaul says towards the end of the article. And then after initial hesitation, Zelensky himself is acting more forcefully. His decision to ban pro-Russia television networks and to charge their owner and Putin ally, Viktor Medvedchuk, with treason was a daring act that needs US support. Now, what was it you were saying earlier, Peter, that McFaul is a pro-democracy activist? So you can see what kind of a pro-democracy activist he is. Crackdown. Remember, Medvedchuk's party is actually the second biggest party in parliament. So he's not just a kind of a maverick figure. He actually commands a solid political movement, and he's obviously critical of Zelensky, and he's under house arrest. What is that other than political repression? And this is what McFaul is supporting. So Ukraine is getting itself into high gear as Zelensky arrives in Washington.
We have to suppress minority opinions and groups for the greater good, for democracy for all. It's so ludicrous. I mean, I think he should be embarrassed by writing that. And then this same character that is under house arrest, they want to charge him with treason and then maybe get into some kind of a prisoner exchange. I mean, what about this man's civil rights? Okay, it's unbelievable. And again, they play with these words, and it's very devious. Pro-Russia? No, they're in Russian language this is where Russian-speaking Ukrainians live. Okay, I mean it's just absurd. Okay, and what they're doing is that they're discriminating against people. There was also, the indigenous peoples thing and all that.
Right, exactly. And McFaul also supports that piece of legislation as well. So the essential to turn Russian, ethnic Russians into an undesirable minority.
And an unprotected minority.
Undesirable, unprotected. And in fact, Ukraine ministers have actually said explicitly, hey, you don't like it, this legislation, you know where you can go? You can go back to Russia. Now imagine any Western country saying something like that to people who have been there.
Well, Trump said it about Omar.
And Omar was actually an immigrant. I mean, she wasn't actually born in the United States, and there was outrage when he said that. So these have been people there for generations.
Let's look at the first paragraph here. During the 20th century, the United States had to demonstrate extraordinary resolve in defending the democracy and security of our friends in West Berlin and West Germany from Russian Soviet aggression. Now, the same is now required in a divided Ukraine. That's rubbish. There's absolutely no historical basis whatsoever. It wasn't about democracy at all. Remember the phrase, everyone? Probably the most famous phrase of the Cold War. They keep the Soviets out, the Germans down, and the Americans in. That's what it was about, not about German democracy. No, they wanted they were not for unification. They didn't want to see, the Americans originally didn't even want Germany to industrialize. They wanted to remember the Morgenthau plan, where they keep a pastoral Germany. So don't tell me this is revisionist history. Okay, it's completely revisionist. Right. And the Warsaw Pact was real.
Right. All right. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's what, this whole notion that where Ukraine is somehow in the front lines fighting Russia. I mean, this is a complete and utter distortion of history, because, of course, we know exactly what happened in 2013, 2014. There was a coup, and a democratically elected government was toppled. And the people who came to power were the people who had lost the previous elections. So that's what caused the crisis, and the people in the southeast of Ukraine rejected it. Their choice, the second time in 10 years that their choice was overthrown by undemocratic means. There was no Russian aggression, as we've discussed many times before. Russia was asleep at the switch. I mean, Russians weren't even following, as they should have been, what was going on in Kiev. And then they kind of woke up and realized what was going on. What happened in Crimea was a direct response to a serious strategic threat to Russia.
No, I mean, I remember being at the Valdai discussion group a few years ago, and they were talking about, Russia stealing this, stealing that. And I just said, look, if you hadn't supported the illegal overthrow of the government in 2014, Crimea still would be part of Ukraine. Right. So would Donbass. Right. So what are you talking about? Right. Cause and effect. See, there's no causality here with these people whatsoever at all. And you and I have said repeatedly here, and we've made it emphatically clear, if they want to heat up this conflict, then Ukraine, there's a great possibility that Ukraine as a state will collapse. Okay? Right. Is that how you want to help Ukraine? By putting its entire existence into question? Do you think Ukraine needs that kind of help, George, from people like Michael McFaul?
That's right. That's right. So when people like McFaul say that Ukraine is somehow the advanced, the front line in the fight against Russia, they are so seriously mischaracterizing what actually is going on there, and making it a thoroughly incendiary issue, because basically this is a problem that the Ukraine government has with its own people. It's nothing to do with Russian aggression or the West versus Russia. Nothing. It is the Kiev government is having a problem with its own people. It is using force against its own people. Remember how we get so hysterical about? Remember back in Milosevic is using force against his own people and so on. So yeah, that's exactly what's going on in Ukraine. And people like McFaul are totally mischaracterizing it, and given the ignorance of Americans, are playing on that ignorance and leading to a very dangerous confrontation.
I've said so many times, if you hold what's going on in Ukraine, what I call official Kiev, because its origins come from the fruit of a poison tree. Okay, the coup. Okay, so I call it official Kiev. Right. If you want hostilities to end in the Donbass, and actually even if you want Ukraine back, why don't you have a demonstration effect? Why don't you become truly democratic? It's never reported, George, but the biggest party in Ukraine was the Party of Regions. After the coup, it was by fiat destroyed. Exactly. Another very popular party was the Communist Party. They just destroyed it, and they arrested its leaders. They stole its property. Is this what democracy is? You just slice off a part of the electorate? You don't want to participate? Yes. This is what Western powers are supporting. We had on Nikolai Petrov, how he explained to us how it's the Western ambassadors in Kiev that are calling the shots. Okay, yes, you can do that. Yes. Michael McFaul talks about the judicial reform and land reform. Well, it's all on paper. Okay. Okay. I mean, they've been having reform since the coup. What's going on? I don't see it.
But again, and when you read what is this reform about, it's basically the West taking control of Ukraine. It's West taking control of the land. Thank you. This is nice, rich agricultural land. Good. We can bring in, the giant agribusiness industries into Ukraine. Same with the judiciary. What kind of judicial reform is it when foreign international experts decide who gets to be a judge in Ukraine? I mean, it is, you really are just simply handing your country over to, foreign powers.
It's been explained to me over and over again over the years, is that you can have all the judges you want, but is anybody going to listen to their rulings? I guess the oligarchs don't. See, this is one thing that it's an unpleasant truth that I have to remind people all the time, is that when Putin came to power, he destroyed the power of the oligarchs. That was part of the reform process. Ukraine's never gone through that. They've never gone through purging themselves of this pernicious influence, okay? So you can have all the laws you want, all the judges you want, all the prosecutors you want, but if the oligarchs control the economy, it's all to naught, okay? It doesn't mean anything. And the gall of Michael McFaul saying, stop, mentioning corruption. Well, that is their problem, okay? That is their problem, and it's a risk to it's actually a cancerous risk to NATO if it were ever to become a member. But the Germans are never going to let that happen. The French are not going to let that happen. Oh, what about the Normandy format? No, leave it the way it is and make Ukraine start making good on the agreements that it's made in the past. We already have these roadmaps. It's Minsk 1 and 2. Okay, and Russia is not even part of the agreement. It's about Ukraine.
All right. Well, I think, yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, what happens when, if the United States will try to get involved in the Normandy format? Well, we don't know. I mean, Merkel will go. We don't know who the next government of Germany will be. They might not oppose America joining the Normandy format. Doesn't mean that it's going to get anywhere, because ultimately, as you say, the issue is the dispute between Kiev and the Donbass. But I can easily envisage a new German government saying, yeah, why not get the Americans involved in the Normandy format? Get some of the burden off our shoulders, and then we'll have the Americans involved. I think the real problem here is, what exactly does the United States want to do with Ukraine? As I say, we've had now two variants on the policy, Biden 1 and then Biden 2. What happens now in the aftermath of Afghanistan? I mean, does he continue giving, Ukraine a kind of cold shoulder, saying, yeah, you just deal with those problems, and then, we'll talk about NATO membership, next year, next decade, or whatever. He could do that, or he could again change his policy and say, yeah, we're right behind you. We want an invigorated NATO. We want to fight alongside Ukraine. So I don't know which way it's going to go.
I'm afraid.
Aftermath of Afghanistan.
I'm afraid, because NATO has been thoroughly discredited, embarrassed, humiliated as a result of the departure of Afghanistan. I mean, that was their perfect fig leaf to we're important. We're an important alliance. We're in Afghanistan, for goodness sake, which they hardly did anything. British troops did die. I will recognize that. But the rest of them, when I visited Kabul, they even had Georgians, as guards, doing they're not even members of NATO, but we're doing our bit, okay? I'm very afraid that NATO is reeling from this, because nobody told them that the U.S. was leaving. Well, of course, because the U.S. has no respect for NATO, okay, unofficially. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more pressure for some kind of face-saving thing, which of course could create a conflict, everyone. And, Russia is not Libya. Russia is not Afghanistan. Russia is not Panama. Okay, it's not Grenada.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and what's the big unknown is that next month there are going to be elections in Germany. As things stand, there could well be a social democrat green coalition coming to power in Germany. They will take a much more anti-Russian stance than Merkel did, and again, they would. Quite possibly get quite belligerent over Ukraine, and generally belligerent on anything to do with Russia. I mean, the ultimate outcome will be the same, because Russia's not going to be pushed around on something that is so vital to its national security, but it will give a certain impetus to the whole, NATO, Ukraine, frontline against Russian aggression movement.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that over the last few days, one of the quirky things that I know is natural gas prices in the world, particularly here in Europe, and they're spiking right now. And who's going to come to the rescue in the matter of weeks, George, to rescue Europe from its price-soaring natural gas prices? Russia, because it's going to turn on the spigot. I mean, it's just comical. Okay, as you point out, they're going to always be looking for all these threats, to justify their policy instead of the reverse, reacting to real threats. Okay, all I can say to the Social Democrats and the Greens and the high-paid NATO apparatchiki in Brussels is it really worth it? Okay, to go to the brink, is it really worth it? Okay, and we'll find out.
Well, I think
because you know what, Russia is not going to back down.
No, they're not going to back down. But it's always been a mystery. The rise of the Greens have always been a kind of a mystery to me. I mean, I kind of remember them back in the 80s when they were anti-war, anti-US missiles, and their rise was kind of explicable. Germany is now has become a very different country from what it had been before 1945, and they just wanted peace. They don't want to be nasty to anyone and so on. And you could explain that's how the rise of the Greens. But now the sort of newly belligerent Greens, plus all their kind of demands for environmental restriction, which lead to higher energy prices. But nonetheless, they have a solid base of support. I mean, so it's a kind of an interesting phenomenon that there's still a substantial core of Germans knowing that they're going to have to pay more for energy, knowing that they're playing a dangerous game in foreign affairs, but they support them. And they may well be in the government.
All I can say to the Greens, you want to throw your lot in with Ukraine, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. What could possibly go wrong, George?
Yeah.
This is such naivete. The op-ed that McFaul wrote is very naive and very dangerous. And said it, and none of them look for solutions, like, giving advice to the Ukrainians, like, how do you create an inclusive political culture where it would be attractive to all Ukrainians that have Ukrainian passport? Nobody ever wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about resolution. All they want is to destroy the other side, okay? What happened to these people, okay? Right. Oh, I guess, they're the people that still were the planners of the Afghan war. Same people.
Right. That's right. Well, McFaul is itself is an interesting case. He failed staggeringly as an ambassador, and I think like most people who have fallen badly on their face, they want to devote the rest of their life as a kind of post facto justification for having bungled it. You get a lifetime opportunity being US ambassador to Russia, and you made a mess of it. He obviously just didn't know what the hell he was doing. He antagonized his host and made himself a persona non grata. So now, he's now devoting all of his time to saying, no, Russia's a terrible place, and I was right all along.
The wrong man at the wrong time in the wrong place with the wrong ideas. Yeah. That's what happened.
That's right.
All right, everybody, we're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. On Friday, we're going to send out the time very, very soon. George and I are going to do our second super chat on YouTube. Yep. We have the store up, so if you like the image of Buddy, and maybe my image of George's, we're not counting on that. But a tote bag with Buddy on it is certainly attractive.
Very valuable.
We welcome gagglers to contact us, and we'll have a Zoom conversation, which you can record and keep. George is doing a second live stream
on Wednesday. Yeah, exactly. So that anyone with any questions, feel free to throw any questions my way. I'll try to answer. If I can't answer, I will circle back, as Jim Saki would put it.
I think he might have copyrighted that, George. Be careful.
I think so. Yes.
All right, and we've done some Q&As, which we've been very, very impressed with the quality of the questions. Okay.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, we do have a tip jar that we would appreciate that you would. We'd like to hear a little jingle every once in a while.
We do 2
videos a day. We don't have any financial angel helping us out. If there were one out there, we might entertain the idea, of course, but we don't. And it's a small, even small sums shows a lot of appreciation for the hard work that we put in every single day.
Right. That's exactly right. And the more you can help, the more you can contribute, the better the product will be. And so we're very appreciative of all you've done for us, and we're very grateful for your support. And remember, If you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.